Evening, everyone. Welcome to our first episode of Home Cooking with Foodland. A couple of things I want to just get started, or kind of home rules and housekeeping stuff we got to touch base on. Our moderator is Cheryl. Cheryl, I want to say hi to everyone.
Hello.
And this is live, right? So we are taking your questions. Please use the question and answer function in your Zoom. And with that, let's get started. So tonight we'll be making Kalua Pork Hash patties and what we call it leftover fried rice, using whatever you have at home with fried eggs. And so let's get started. The first thing we want to do is we're gonna get onion ready. I'm gonna be caramelizing that. So we're gonna go ahead and julienne it. And when I'm cooking, one of the things I'm always trying to do is sort of time the whole process so things are coming together. And for me, the onion is a good starting point because I need it to make the hash mix. And while it's cooking, while the onion's cooking, I can do some other prep. So I'm gonna go ahead and take the skin off. And I'm using this is a sweet onion, and I like using sweet onions because they have less sulfur and there's more sugar in the onion, so it makes it sweeter when you cook with it. And I'm just clean up a little bit of this skin here, and then we're gonna julienne it. Now, right here, you can see here, there's a little piece of that core still. I want to get that out, so I'm gonna do an angle cut here to get that out. If I didn't take that out, when I go for my julienne, all the pieces might stick together. Now, a julienne is a thin cut, and I'm gonna go with the grain. You can see the grain here. I want to go with the grain versus against the grain, okay? And we're gonna go thin. I'm gonna say somewhere between 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch. And what I did do before we went live is I did turn the stove on because I wanted to kind of let the pan heat up a little bit. But here's our julienne. I'll go ahead and put it in a container here. But we want to caramelize this, and I want to get this going now because I want to let it take its time. And I don't want to rush the process because I don't want to burn the onion, and I want to get all of that kind of golden color. So here we have our pan. Like I said, I was preheating it. And then I'm going to start with just a little bit of grapeseed oil in the pan, just to coat the bottom.
Why are you using grapeseed oil?
So I'm using grapeseed oil because I want a neutral oil that doesn't have flavor with a very high smoking point, and that's what I like to use. You could use vegetable oil, you could use avocado oil. The key is you want to use something that has a low flavor and has a high smoking point. Got a little bit of skin in there. So one of the things that you want to keep, if you can get it close here, take a look here and listen. You can hear some of that sizzling, and that's important. When you put it in the pan, you want to hear that. If you don't hear anything, then it's not hot enough and you're just kind of sweating, okay? So we're gonna let this caramelize while we do some other prep. The other things that we're gonna need for our dish today are some green onions sliced, and we're gonna need to chop some ginger. So I'll go start with the green onions here. And of course, these have been rinsed out already. You wanna make sure you wash your vegetables. And we're just gonna slice it thin. The cool thing about these green onions here, they actually came from my backyard. And what I do is when I have to buy green onions, you know how they come with the root still. So I'm sure a lot of you do this too, but I save the root pieces and then I lightly dry them and then I plant them. Kind of a nice sustainable thing to do, I think. But you're gonna want to just go ahead and slice these onions thin. Now, as I'm doing the slicing, I have to keep in mind that I do have my onions in the background, and you can, if you're in here with me, you could smell that nice caramelization and that sweet onion flavor. So I'm gonna check on it real quick. And I'll talk to them. You're starting to see the caramelization that's happening. And the thing about doing onions, when you're doing them, you really can't rush the process, and you cannot just go really, really hot thinking that you're gonna make up for lost time. You want that medium heat so that it can lightly brown and get golden. We'll go ahead and finish our onions here. Now, I'm using the greens, and if you have the whites, you can use the whites too. You can also use garlic chives, which are kind of fun. The flat chives give it a nice flavor, nice dimension.
What heat are you using when you caramelize the onions?
So for For the onions, I am caramelizing them at medium heat, medium high. So the way you can tell you're at the right temperature really is by listening. I can hear that there's a very light sizzle. And if it was really, really, really too hot, the sound would be more like a and that's where kind of getting that burning that's going on here. But this is a kind of very lazy sizzle you can hear, and that tells me that I'm kind of in the right spot. But you can see it started to really nicely, nicely golden brown. Okay. Now I'm going to season it with a little bit of salt. One of the things that's important to do when you're cooking is season through the process instead of trying to do everything at the end. And I feel like when you're cooking like that way, you're layering the flavors and you're seasoning as you go. So we're gonna let that cook a little bit, keep going. All right, so we have our green onions that are done here. The next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna work on some ginger. And we have a nice ginger root here, and that's gonna be for the fried rice. I really like to use ginger. I'm gonna put a lot of green onions in the rice so that it almost mimics the, you know, when you have ginger chicken, cold ginger chicken, that ginger scallion flavor. So we'll put that here. And I'm going to take a piece here. How about this size here? Now, the question is about, some people ask about peeling, right? And I would jump in here and get a spoon. You know, you could use a peeler or a knife, but lots of times you waste. So the way that we like to do this, the ginger is to use a spoon and just kind of scrape it. Because when you're scraping it, you see you're getting the skin off, but you're just getting the skin off. And you're not taking too much of the flesh, which you really want to save. Now, if I was going to be making a soup, or if I was going to be making like, I don't know, chicken long rice or something in the near future, I would save the skin because that is flavor, and I could use that to make the stock. So.
And did you wash the ginger before?
I did wash the ginger, yeah. Especially this is a root vegetable, right? So you want to make sure there's lots of times the produce is typically washed when it gets to the store. But you always want to take time to make sure that any leftover, sometimes it's residual soil that's on there, you want to get it off. Okay, so we have our ginger. I'm going to go in one more time and check really quickly the onions. Okay, I'm trying to heat down a little bit. I'm getting a little bit of browning a little bit too fast. But we're still good. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and slice the onion. I'm sorry, the onion. I'm gonna slice in the ginger. First I'm gonna do is slice very thin one way. And then I'm gonna take my slices and then I'm gonna slice them into little strips. And then I'm gonna take my strips and cut them the other way. So first I'm doing my little thin strips here.
Can you use pre-bought ginger, like that comes in a jar?
You can totally use pre-bought ginger. I think, you know, when it comes to cooking, there's, I guess you could call it the gold standard, and there's, you know, working with what you have, and there's, you know, the thing that I think is important is that if you have that and not having it, or if I were to say to only use that and I was going to stop you from cooking, then you should just use it. And I think the thing is, what I would say is, you're gonna have to use more though, because the flavor over time dissipates. So you can still use it and it'll still have ginger flavor, but the fresh ginger is gonna be much more pungent. It's gonna have a more true flavor. So if you can use fresh ginger, I would do it. But if you have the bottled product, it's great. It's a great product to use. It's very convenient, and it saves time. So, you know, there's a lot of benefits to having it.
Chef Keoni, we didn't put ginger on our ingredient list. So what about stubbing ginger powder?
Ginger powder, I would stay away from. And the reason for that is, you know, when you're talking about ginger powder, you're talking about a flavor that really, in my head, I associate more with baking. And the drying process really, I think, changes the flavor enough that I would not do that. And I think this kind of fried rice, again, if you don't have the ginger, it's not gonna adversely affect the product. It's just gonna have a little bit of a different experience. So here we go. Here's the ginger.
That bowl that you use to put the ginger peel in, is that a bowl you use for composting or for soup?
I do not use it for composting. You could. I mean, you could separate all of your, your compostable waste. And if you are doing that, that's great. I put it here just so that I could have something to put all of my trimming in.
Now the onions that you're caramelizing, is that for the fried rice or is that for
that is going to be for the Kalua hash. So I'm putting it right now actually. So we're going to put that in there. And then what we're going to do is I'm going to take the Kalua pork. Now the Kalua pork, I'm not sure if you saw this on Instagram, but we did it in an Instapot. And I took a pork butt, we put some tea leaves, we put some banana leaves, and then we pressure cooked it for an hour. And that's what this is. Now keep in mind, if you have, if you don't have the time to make it, you can use the other product that we have in the store. We have some different versions here, and those are really great to use too. So I have here my Kalua pork, I have my potatoes, I have my onions. I'm gonna put 1 egg, and that's a binder. And then I'm gonna season with salt and pepper. And I'm also gonna add some green onions in here. Pepper. And what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna bring this together. What I'm trying to do here is lightly mix all of this and get the potatoes that are pre-cooked. These are 3 potatoes that I put in here, and I lightly mashed. We're trying to get this to come together, and I don't want to really heavily work this because I want to keep it light, and I want to keep all of the ingredients, the integrity of the ingredients together, okay?
What kind of salt do you use to season this?
So what I'm using for seasoning, the salt that I'm using to season with is, it's just plain sea salt. And one of the things that I do tell people is you really don't want to use iodized salt because the iodine adds flavor, and it's not typically a flavor I want to associate with the cooking that we're using.
And instead of russet potatoes, can I use other potatoes or even sweet potatoes?
So when you're thinking about the potatoes to use for this, I am using russet potatoes. You can use other potatoes. If you were going to use a different potato, I would use something like a Yukon Gold. You could totally use sweet potatoes. That would be it would add a different dimension, but also would be very delicious. Now, I have a scooper, and I use the scooper here because it helps with the portion control. If you don't have a scooper, don't worry about it. You can use a spoon and just kind of eyeball it. But here we go. I'm making 8 nice little balls here.
Can you tell us again how you did the potatoes? Because that was already pre-done before you started.
So as it pertains to cooking the potatoes, what you want to do is, I took 3 potatoes. The potatoes were, I would say maybe the size of my fist. And then I peeled them, and I diced them, and I cooked them in salted water. And then when they were tender, I just lightly mashed them. Okay, so here's our 8 patties here. And what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to lightly press them down, just so that we have cakes shaped.
What was the scooper that you used? What size is that?
This is an ice cream scooper. You know what? It's a good question. We go by the colors. It's a green scooper, but I would say the portion size is half of the cup to 3/4 of a cup. Okay, so we're gonna start the fried rice now. I'm getting a pan here hot. Now, what's important about making fried rice is that you wanna make sure that you have a lot of area to work with. And if you have a small pan, you might have to make this in a few different batches. But in this case here, I have a large pan that I'm going to be using. And now it has straight sides, so it's gonna be a little bit more tricky to toss. But I'm just usually go ahead and stir the rice so that we can keep it moving. While this is heating up, we're gonna rinse this out because we're gonna need to come back and cook the hash cakes. Okay, so as you're gonna do the rice, what you really want to do is get this pan nice and hot. And this is leftover rice that I'm using. And what I've done is I put it in the refrigerator and I've let it dry out. And I really want it to flake apart. You can see that it flakes nicely. And that's gonna help give it a nice fried rice. And it's very dry. But this is medium grain Kalua rice, the kind that we cook every night and we have for dinner. Okay, so now I have this on high. I'm trying to get this very hot. And again, I'm gonna go in with my grapeseed oil. And what I'm trying to do here is I really want to cook. I want to get this thing really hot, so I want to start to let it to almost smoke, because that's going to help get the fried rice to cook quickly. In this case, the opposite is true. I'm looking for very high heat relative to the onions because I do want this to sear the rice very quickly. Now, if you take a look in the pan here, you can tell it's pretty close because when the oil kind of runs down, you see it ripple. And when you see that ripple, that's a good indicator that it's getting pretty close. And then you're going to start to gradually see little wisps of smoke, which I'm starting to see. And that's going to kind of let me know that the pan is ready. The other way you can do this is test a little bit, throw a little bit of rice in there. And you see how it's sizzling, but it took a little bit of a delay. So it's almost ready. Just a few more seconds and I'll be good to go. Now I'm going to coat the bottom of the pan here. And this is about 3 cups of rice.
Do you feel like the grapeseed oil creates more smoke?
It actually creates less smoke, and the reason I'm saying that is because you want something that's a high temperature or high heat oil, and that means it's going to smoke at a much higher temperature. So it creates less smoke. If you were to use something that has a low smoke point, with like sesame oil as an example, that would create a lot of smoke and it would start to smoke very quickly. So by the time grapeseed oil or avocado oil actually starts to smoke, the temperature is actually pretty high at that point. Okay, so I have the rice in here, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to let it cook. And what I'm trying to do is, the process of making fried rice is really I'm trying to fry the rice, and I want to twist the skin. I want to caramelize it. That's going to give you some flavor, and also help the rice grains separate. Because you don't want a sticky rice when you're making fried rice.
Can you use fresh rice?
You can totally use, if you have fresh rice and you want to make fried rice, you can do that. It's just a little trickier because you want to dry it. So if you have time, take the fresh rice and then put it on a pan, thin it out, put it in the refrigerator. You want to let it kind of air dry, or put it in the freezer to dry. The other thing I like to tell people is if you want to have a fried rice and you have to use fresh rice, you don't actually have to fry it. You could take the fresh rice and flavor it. You can saute the flavorings, put it in, stir it together. It's not going to be the same fried flaky rice that you would have if you fry, but it's still going to be delicious.
What about brown rice? Brown rice or jasmine rice?
Other rice that we're talking about, whether it's brown rice or jasmine, brown rice works great. Jasmine rice also works great. It gives you different characteristics. I think jasmine's kind of fun too because you're going to get some of the fragrance in there. But in both cases, the more you're able to dry it out, the better experience that you're going to have as a taste to it. Now, what I'm going to do at this point is start to add my ingredients. Now, here I have Portuguese sausage. I diced it, and it had already been pre-crisped up, so I got some of the juices coming out there. We're going to add that in here. I'm also going to add in ginger, the ginger that we prepped. We're going to put that in here. Now, the ginger I'm putting in now because I cut it so fine. What I want is the flavor to come out, but I don't have to heavily cook it. And I find that if I put it in at this stage, it warms through and it gives great flavor, but it stays fresh and vibrant as well. So we're starting to move it around. We're going to let it kind of come together. Green onions I'm going to add. We're going to add all these peas. And so the nice thing is you have the nice spice from the Portuguese sausage and all the flavoring, the ginger. I think peas, besides adding a lot of nice color, it gives it a little burst of sweetness. We're going to let it kind of move around here. Then I'm going to put Shoyu. Just a tiny dash of oyster sauce. This one here, you want to be real gentle with. Some people like to use a lot of oyster sauce, but for me, I just want to put a dab in there because I don't want the fried rice to taste very powerfully, like strong with the oyster sauce.
What if you don't have oyster sauce? What would you substitute for
If you
oyster?
don't have oyster sauce, don't even worry about it. The shoyu is perfectly fine. Even if you don't have shoyu, I wouldn't worry about it either. I would just go ahead and make it without. But if you're gonna not have the shoyu or the oyster sauce, you're gonna have to adjust a little bit more by maybe adding more ginger, maybe adding some fresh garlic into the mix, because you're gonna have to offset the flavor that you're not getting from those other ingredients.
What about adding garlic? Like you mentioned, garlic.
Adding garlic into this would be great. I didn't add garlic into this, but that can work very well. The other thing you can do, which works well, is using garlic salt. That's I think one of those staples that everyone has at home. I'm going to finish it with just a little bit of sesame oil, and I'm adding the sesame oil at the end. One of the things that I think people do is sometimes they try to saute with sesame oil, and as we talked about smoking point, that has a low smoking point and it burns very easily. So I use it as a flavoring oil, and I use it at the end to give it flavoring oil.
What about seasoning with fish sauce?
Fish sauce works too. Fish sauce is a great seasoning. It has umami. It has a lot of meatiness. It has a lot of flavor. It's just a different dimension that you add to this.
If you do add garlic, would you take something out?
Nope, I would leave it. And I think that's the fun thing about fried rice. The fried rice you make can continually evolve and change, and I wouldn't take anything out. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this in the bowl here. Sorry. One thing I was gonna say is eggs is a great addition to this. Carrots are, celery is also a good addition. I'm not putting eggs in this because we're gonna do a fried egg with this, but that would work really good too. Here's our fried rice. I'm gonna put this on the table here.
You put choke ginger in the fried rice. Do you have to put that much ginger, or can you adjust to taste?
You can adjust it to taste. That's the cool thing about this rice. And the thing about cooking, it's a lot about preference, right? And so if you don't like ginger, don't put it in. If you want a little bit, put it in. If you like ginger chicken, I put that in there. And that's kind of where I got the inspiration for this particular one. I like ginger chicken, and I really like the flavor of ginger. So
when do you add in the raw egg?
We're gonna fry the egg later, and then we're gonna serve it. If you want to put eggs in it, you can totally put eggs in it. You mean, so the question is, when do you put the raw egg if you're gonna do it?
Yes.
There's a couple ways you can do it. I've done it where I throw the egg in at the last minute and I stir it all around. I've also cooked the egg separately and chopped it up and then stirred it in at the end. So there's a couple different ways you can do it. And it just depends on your mood. If I'm in a rush, I'll throw the egg in and stir it all together. So I want to make it all pretty and make sure my egg is very separate and very clean in there. I'll cook it separate, chop it, and put it in. Okay, so now we're gonna do the hash cakes. So these are nice and set. One thing that you can do is make them ahead. You can freeze them. You can refrigerate them. In this case, we're gonna go straight in the pan. Now we're gonna pan fry these. By pan frying, what that means is you're gonna be putting more fat than you would if you saute. Saute's amount of oil would be just a very thin layer on the bottom. Deep fry would be submerged. In this case, we're putting, quarter of an inch roughly of oil in the pan. We want it to be medium-high heat, which is probably close to 300 degrees Fahrenheit. And then we're going to go ahead and put in our cakes.
You use egg to bind the hash?
Yeah.
What if someone has an egg allergy?
If someone has an egg allergy, then I would say just don't put the egg in there. Now, the thing that I would do is I might add extra potato because the potato becomes the binder. But it can be done without egg. Okay, I'm putting this in pan fry, and I can fit 4. What you want to do here is you want to make sure you have enough space around the cakes so that they can lightly brown here, okay? And again, the thing about cooking is a lot of it's about sight and sound. And so the bubbling you're seeing here is what I want. The size of the bubbles is what I want. And the sound that I'm looking for is a lazy, foaming, popping. It's not a very fast, aggressive sound. And that's what you're looking for when you're making this kind of a cake. While that's starting to brown, I'm going to start to heat up a pan because I'm going to start to get ready to do the egg that goes on the dish. Now, when you're going to do this at home, you can do the whole family style thing where you make a big fried rice, you fry a bunch of these, and then people can serve themselves, or you can plate. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to plate one for us here so you can see kind of what the whole finished dish looks like. One thing you want to do is check. You want to start checking your cake underneath to see what the color looks like. You see it's starting to get nice and golden brown. So I'm going to let it go just a little bit longer.
What do you think about using cornstarch or tofu as a binder instead of egg?
Tofu's a good idea. I like that idea. Cornstarch can work too. You know, flour, cornstarch are good options, good things you can use. I think the tofu is a really good one. You just have to, I would use firm tofu, and you might have to press it to get moisture off because you don't want it to be too wet.
How do you make sure your patties are cooked through?
So when you're trying to figure out how to cook the patties cooked through, besides going by feel, one thing is the amount of time as a guide, right? The amount of time that it takes to nicely brown both sides is a good gauge that you're looking at the right amount of time and the right temperature. The other thing that you can do, and I highly recommend doing, if you're starting out cooking and you're still getting a feel, is to use a thermometer. And so for this item here, you're going to be wanting to shoot for like a 165 internal temperature. And you get a 165, then you know you're good to go. And after a while, you can go by feel. So let's continue to cook. I'm heating a pan here.
Can you bake the patties?
You could bake the patties. What I would do if I was going to bake them, though, I would still brown them and then cook them in the oven, because my concern would be if I were to just cook them straight in the oven like this, they might not get the same color. So that's one thing that I would be concerned about. But if I was doing a large party, I would brown a lot of them on a sheet pan. Or if we do this in a kitchen, in a professional kitchen, we brown a lot and then we finish in the oven. It kind of helps with the process. Okay. So these are looking good. While that's browning, we're going to go ahead and do the egg.
What about cooking it in an air fryer?
You know, that is a good question. I've never worked with an air fryer. I don't know, but I hear they're very popular, and it's very similar to a convection oven is what I hear. But I think it's worth trying because conceptually, you're circulating air, and if you're trying to use less fat, then that can really help too. Let's see what this looks like on the inside. We'll go a little bit longer. Now, one thing that you want to do with these is I have a plate with paper towels, because when you're done browning them, they're cooked through, you do want to drain them, okay? Now I have my pan here. We're going to do a sunny side up egg. A little bit of fat in there, just a little bit. And then we're going to go ahead and check on our cakes here. See what this looks like. Looking good. I'm actually going to probably flip these over one more time. I want to broaden this side just a little bit more. I'm going to flip it over. But you see, you got some nice color there. One thing you want to keep when you're going to flip these over, you put the spatula underneath the cake. You put your finger here, and you want to flip it to the side of the pan, and let it fall right back down.
So you're using grapeseed oil for this, but could you use olive oil?
So the question is whether or not we could use olive oil. Technically, the answer is yes, but I would say that I would recommend against using olive oil, specifically because there's a flavor component that I don't want in this dish. Now, there's two kinds of olive oil. There's regular olive oil and there's extra virgin. I would definitely not recommend extra virgin olive oil because it gives you that really olive flavor. if all you had was regular olive oil, you could probably get away with it because it's neutral. It's not as strong as extra virgin, but I would recommend not.
And so if you were to bake these in the oven, what temperature would you bake it at?
I would go 350. I think the magic number for a lot of the cooking is 350, 325, 350. Okay, so take a look at this. This is the fat that I have in the pan. It's just lightly glazing on the bottom. And starting to see that ripple. That's what I'm looking for. So I'm gonna go ahead and put my egg in. I cracked the egg in a glass bowl because in case I had a shell, I could take it out. So that's one of the things that I like to do when I'm frying an egg. Okay. Let it do its thing. Let it be happy. Season with some salt. A little bit of pepper. Now our cakes. By the way,
how do you know they're done?
The cakes? Because they feel done. Kidding. They're done because the amount of time that it's taken to get the nice color, this is probably about 6 minutes is my estimation. But again, if you wanted to temp them out, you could temp them out. Okay. One thing I wanted to show you is that as I was frying these two, I kept moving the cakes around because I wanted to keep shaping them and try to get them to be nice and round. I'm pretty happy with the way these look. Now, these are 4. All you would have to do is go for a second round of these. But one thing I would say is, you see how the, when you go for your second round, because of the little pieces that come out, you want to clean the pan before you do the next one, okay? So now, here we have, I'll quickly I'll show you. So we have our fried rice. We've got our hash, Kalua pork hash, Kalua pork and potato hash. I still have a little bit of green onions left, so I'm gonna sprinkle some on here because I think it's a nice garnish.
How would you describe the consistency of the rice? Is it sticky? Is it moist? Is it sticking together?
So the consistency of the rice, great question. I'm gonna taste some and I'll let you know. What I'm looking for on the rice here is I want it to be, I don't want it to be completely mushy together. I'd like it to be separated as much as possible, but because it is the medium grain, even though I started with it separate, it wants to kind of come together a little bit. But the grains are elasticy because I dried them and then I rehydrated them. There's a nice elasticity to them. They're separated in my mouth and it's lightly chewy, which is really cool. Okay, and you can taste that ginger. So let's go ahead and we'll plate one. So again, family style, big bowl, put all these together, and then maybe you can fry rice for eggs for people to their liking. But I want to show you like what a plate up could look like. So here we have our fried rice, which I think looks great. Smells great. I hope I'm making Cheryl hungry. Okay, here we go. We're gonna put 2 of these because we made 8, right? And this is for 4. So we have our 2 cakes here, right there, and then we're gonna come in the end with our egg. Trying to figure out where I want to put it. I'm gonna put it right here. Sorry, camera person. Here's our egg. And here's our fried rice with Kalua pork potato hash, sunny side up egg. Now, garnishes are everything, right? So I'm gonna put a little bit of Furikake on here because I think that sesame seeds, nori will add some nice flavor dimension to that. And I like spicy. So you could, if you wanted to, you could put sriracha inside fried rice. But whoa, that was cool. But I'm gonna put some on the side. I don't put it inside because if you're gonna making it for a family of kids, maybe they don't want spicy. But here's the finished dish. So we have our leftover fried rice. We have the Kalua pork potato hash with a sunny side up egg, and that's the dish for today.
What inspired you to make this dish?
The inspiration for the dish, we had a Mother's Day brunch that Redfish Poke Bar by Foodland did, which was super delicious. And I couldn't get that out of my head, and I thought it'd be super fun to do because it's a great brunch item. It's a great breakfast item, but you could totally eat this for dinner. Like, I'm going to get into this thing a little bit later, and I'm going to have a really great comfort meal here. And that's the dish.
Tell us a little bit about the egg. Is it cooked?
Well, the egg is sunny side up, so that means the white here is set, but the yolk is not. And so I like it this way. The bottom here, I like to get a little crispy like that, so you're adding texture. But again, if you like it over easy, if you like it scrambled, you know, that's really up to you. You can do it how you want.
What about chili pepper water as a
chili pepper water would be good. Tabasco sauce would be great. I think that's the fun thing about the dish here. It's really, really open to your own preferences. And I think the fun thing about the dish is I'm showing you a version, but I'm really interested to see what everyone else is going to do. And when you make your version, you know, you should send us your pictures. They make your versions, send us your pictures, and you know, I'm excited to see the Spam version and the Portuguese sauces version and the pipicala version and peas and carrots and lemongrass. You know, so have fun with this.
Is this a breakfast dish or anytime dish?
This is an anytime dish. It started out as breakfast, but breakfast is every day these days. So that's the dish here. And the thing I do want to tell you is I had a great time, and I wanted to let you know that next week's episode, we're going to be doing episode number 2, is going to be Thai lab, which is, it's a ground, sometimes it's pork, sometimes it's turkey, but it's ground, it's got mint, it's got lemongrass, it's got fish sauce, lime juice, and it's often served with cabbage and cucumbers. So we're excited to see you next week, and we'll do some more cooking. We'll see everyone.